Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me again today for the Finding Hope After Loss podcast. If you have never checked out the Journey for Jasmine Instagram or Facebook page, I suggest you head over and check out everything there is to see. I have so many things that I try to do for lost families. Everything from a book club, a holiday card exchange, a Mother's Day gift exchange, monthly posts honoring the babies we have lost each month, and so many other things. And I try to post about a variety of different loss topics so that everybody can feel heard and seen. So there's posts about loss in general, grief, trying to get pregnant after loss, pregnancy after loss, rainbow babies, those who don't get their rainbow babies. There's really just a little bit of everything. And I'm always open to suggestions on things you would like to see as well. So today I am talking with Natalia. She shares the story of the neonatal loss of her son. She's a full-time traveler, along with being a yoga and a meditation teacher. Hello, everyone. Today I am here with Natalia. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for inviting me for this project. And I'm really excited to be here. So my name is Natalia. I'm originally from Russia, but currently I live in Brazil. So I've been traveling for almost 2 years so far, together with my husband. And it happened somehow that our journey to find something in the external world has changed into the search into yourself. Like everything has turned inward. What else? I'm the yoga and meditation teacher. I'm the writer, and currently I'm writing a book about all my traveling stories, and not only traveling story, but also the story that happened to my son. So last year, on June 28th, we had a birth that ended up in a death. It's all happened in one day. So like 12 hours after the birth, he has gone. The reason was his hypoxia. So he couldn't breathe well. It's kind of the most maybe popular problem for newborns to leave this world. Yeah, and today I would like to share a little bit of my story. How did I overcame this period, because it's like almost a year has gone, and how is that possible to come back to your normal life, especially living in the other country, living abroad, when you don't have your family, friends, when you like literally have to build your new life from the ground zero.
So were you already traveling before that happened, or you started traveling after that happened?
We started traveling before that happened. We came to Cape Town in South Africa, where we got this news, and we're like, okay, we feel so much comfortable like traveling and living in different countries. We know languages. We can find a place where we can give the birth and like stay for a longer time. And we were thinking about Latin America, so long time, and had some friends who came there. So we decided, why not? The climate is good, the food is good. We are vegetarians, vegan vegetarians. So yeah, and also really important thing that I found, a Russian midwife here. It's really important to have the doctor who can speak your language and help you. And the place where we've been living, there were a lot of Russian speaking people, like a community, so they could help me like, to prepare myself for this labor. And of course, they helped me in the recovery period, at least to have someone you can talk to. Because as I said, we're living in the other country, and I think we still don't know Portuguese too much, but yeah, it's really important to have someone who can understand you, who's from your native culture.
Was it
So
hard
yeah.
being so far from your family and friends?
I think yeah, from the first point, it is hard, of course, but on the other side, I think maybe it's even better not to see my parents' eyes, for example, when all this story happened. Maybe it was like this story was created, especially in this case, so that we have to live separately in this time for us to think about what has happened, for them to leave us for a while. I think maybe, and especially as I'm not that much close to my parents, like I was okay to leave, to let this period came just me and my husband together.
So I know you mentioned at the beginning that now it's become more of like a emotional inward journey. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh, yes, I can tell a lot of things about that. So I think the first thing that happened to me, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of women who had their first baby can relate to me, because when you get this pregnancy for the first time in your life, you're like, okay, what is going on? It's not just about the physical changes within your body. You realize that like whole your life is going to change, and all like projects that you probably had, they're not going to work like you expect them to work. So all these expectations versus reality happened to me. I was kind of not like really blaming my son who came to my life, but I mean, when I was pregnant, I was like, oh no, I haven't done so much things yet, why did you came so early? And all these kind of inner conversations that I'm sure that so many women had, and it's not maybe that popular to talk about these kind of things, because usually it's like, oh, you're pregnant, you have to be, you have to carry about your body, I don't know, with go to the doctors, but not that much information we get about the maybe mental health, or the thing that is like connection to your baby. I think as my Russian doctor, she used to say that the labor starts at the very first day of your pregnancy. So it's really important how you spend these whole 9 months. Are you fighting with this new reality, or are you really accepting what has gone, what has happened to you?
I think that's
Um,
a really good point of view. I mean, that's true. We're
yeah,
not all, pregnancy is definitely life-changing, and it's
yeah,
not something we're all going to be happy about all the time with like every aspect of it. Not, and it doesn't mean we don't love them. It just means,
yes.
we're trying to accept the new reality.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not like something that you can read from the books or even listen from the others who has gone through this experience. It's something that you can just experience in your own reality, and how you're gonna go through it. It depends on so many things. And also the other thing that has happened to me after this day, like a disappointment from the failed motherhood, if I can say like that, because I've been okay, maybe with some challenges, but anyway, I said to myself, okay, now you're gonna work as a mother and all these things, and all the hormones, all your emotional things. But after that, when he has gone and all these things, and I'm like, who am I right now? What is my value to the world? And as I'm working as a yoga and meditation teacher, of course, I couldn't work as a meditation teacher after that, because I couldn't relax others. So I'm like, what I can do right now? I couldn't hide myself from in the work, because my work connected to the people, and yeah, it's like the endless something that has happened to me. So I started to concentrate on thinking how to start my new life, um, and that's how my overcoming period has started.
So do you think that after you got past the initial, I mean, not that you ever really get past the grief, but through that initial, like really hard grief time, has the yoga and the meditation been helpful again? Have you been doing it
Yes,
again?
yes, of course. I think in general, it really helped me not just to go away from this world as well, because as I'm so get used to be concentrated with my inner feelings, I can stop myself and okay, what is going on? So even after that has happened, and I get only one question: why me? Why did that happen to me? And I ask this question only to myself, not to the doctors, to the hospital, to the all the other people around me, because I'm the only one person who is responsible for everything that is going on here. And also with the help of different kind of wellness, mindfulness practices that I have been doing for these few months. Um, of course, it really helped me to feel myself grounded, to feel myself in this very present moment. It can sound like very common phrases, we all know about them, but it's really different if you just can hear about that, read about that, or how you can experience that and how you can implement this knowledge into your real life. Yeah, so what I also noticed, maybe with the help of these yoga meditation things that I have been doing, that I I felt tired of too much grief around me, because so many friends were texted me like, "Oh, I'm sorry," all these things, um, and so that they made me even more depressed. I think it's much easier to be sad, to be in the misery, than start to build your life, then start to do something better, than to create a positive, like I mean, a good positive things in your life. That's what I felt, and maybe that's again answering your question. I think maybe it is better that I was away from my family, from my friends. I was all alone, concentrated on building my new life with good, positive surroundings. And the Brazil is a really nice place for that. We've been living by the ocean, so this ocean therapy, palms, the flowers, the birds, and all this stuff. Yeah, that really helped me as well.
Are there other things besides those that helped you get through your grief?
Yeah. So the first like starting point that I realized, it was about like maybe 2 weeks after the labor, when I found myself sitting in front of the computer interviewing for the new job. And once again, I'm the yoga and meditation teacher, so I've been interviewing for some job that I supposed to relax others. Of course, I wasn't hired to this project, but after that interview, I asked myself, what is going on? Why are you here? Why do you want to start doing something just not to feel yourself? So after that, I'm like, okay, let's concentrate on something more pleasant. So I started to learn some aromatherapy, doing some sessions, so many things. So like the first starting point maybe was after 2 weeks. Um, what else? I allowed myself to quit from all the social media things. So because when you scroll these endless posts, videos of positive people around you, you blame yourself that you are not that positive as they are, and you start comparing their lives to your feelings right now. So many things that I maybe 4 or 5 months I was off all the Facebook, Instagram stories, and all this stuff. And maybe the third point in the overcoming period, it was about maybe 3 months after my story has happened. One of my friends, she lives in the other country as well. She lives abroad as well. So she texted me like, oh, hey Natalia, I had some problems. I just hurt my leg, and she started to send me pictures. Like they were not really nice and beautiful, but I'm like, okay, stop. What is going on? Like I asked myself again, do you want to be engaged with this story, or that's something that you don't need right now? So that time I chose myself, and I said here like, Kristen, honestly saying I'm not ready to be involved into your story right now. So I send you all my love that I can send you right now, but let's stop this conversation here. So I didn't start to ask her what has happened, and like, because I had so much like bad emotions within me that I had to overcome. So again, choosing only yourself, that was really helpful for me.
And I think that's really hard for a lot of people. We feel like we have to give and
Yes.
give to everybody else and we don't give to
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah, because I think be ready to say no when you really want to say that. That's really important because again, reminding yourself that you are the only one here. So all the others are just your scenery around you.
So do you talk about your loss very often?
Not really. But I told about that to my followers on Instagram maybe a week after the birth because so many people were texting me like, "Oh, your due date is supposed to be somewhere around here," and I felt that I have to tell the others just not to have these questions. So I told this story. Then I quit the social media, and maybe the first time I told about this story to the person whom I didn't know before, it was maybe 6 months after when we moved to a new city, and I went to some doctors just for the health checkup. So I had to tell my story. It was quite challenging to dive into some memories, but now it's like 10 or something months has gone, so I felt myself confident, and I have enough power or strength, inner strength, to tell about that without any tears or something.
And it can be hard to get to that point sometimes. I still cry
Yeah.
sometimes telling the story, and it's been
Yes.
5 years. It just kind of
Yeah.
depends.
Yeah, I think it's impossible just to cut your memory. Of course, it always um, will come to my mind sometimes, but at the same time I'm ready to talk about that. That's why I'm here today.
Do you have any other advice for people who are going through loss?
um, yeah, maybe this kind of piece of advice, that to remind yourself that time is the best healer, because I really like to compare myself today to myself like 1 year ago, or at least a few months ago, and it's always a different person. So many things are changing within me, even especially if I'm traveling or even if I'm living in one place. Um, some new projects are coming, new people around me, so everything's changing. So it's really impossible to have the same feelings that you have today in a 6 months after, for example. So yeah, just remind yourself that time will make its job. And the second thing that maybe I have already talked about, just to turn yourself inward, to choose yourself in any aspects of your life, whether it's about your work, whether it's even if it's about your close friends or family. Have this strength to say no, or say I'm on the first place. I want to do this massage therapy, for example, rather than go into someone's party because it's my brother, for example. So yeah, yeah, that's these two pieces of advice, I would say.
So do you find, I know that, people can, especially men and women, handle grief differently. Do you find
Yeah.
that grief has brought you and your husband closer together, or has it, did you have difficulty
Mm-hmm.
with that at all?
We had and still have in different times in our life when we are maybe closer or maybe have more like these relation problems, but I don't really call them problems. I think it's the part of life. Sometimes something is better, sometimes you have some things you have to talk about. But of course, for him, this overcoming period was completely different. First maybe a week or 2 weeks he was on the same level as me, but after that we had a therapy session and something has changed. He has become like a rock, like mountain that can support me, that can hold me. So with the help of his presence, with the help of his energy that is much stronger than mine, it was much easier for me. And especially this first 2, 3, or maybe even 4 months, I think we were closer together. And again, maybe the reason for that was that we were away from our home country, our family, just two of us. Of course, some community that can speak our native language were together, but still we were alone, and that made us closer.
So I know you mentioned that you travel. Do you have plans to travel again somewhere else, or are you staying there for a while?
Um, we've been living in this city for 3 or 4 months so far, so it's a kind of a record for us to stay for such a long time. But I think a lot of people who've been traveling for a long time can relate to me right now, because traveling is a nice idea, but it's also nice to stay somewhere for a while when you can assimilate in the local community or find new friends. Right now in this city, I'm trying to build a yoga international community around me. So it's so good to feel yourself like at home, even if you are away from home. So we are enjoying our time in this city right now, maybe just some random short-term travelings just for 2, 3 days, but not that much as it was before.
And then you also mentioned that you're working on writing a book.
Yes, so I had this idea even before of the birth. So, but after the birth, I think it was like a gear, like a like changing point for me that I definitely have to write it right now, because it's not only a story about the girl who decided to travel and change her life together with her husband. And by the way, my husband was not ready for traveling, so the book starts how first I was traveling alone to Asia, teaching yoga. Then my husband, okay, I want to try this lifestyle. Let's do it together. So all these changes within us, like a family, like a partners, I show this, and then of course the birth story. But I'm trying to write about this story, not like the reader to feel the grief or something like that, but for them to show that these kind of things are also part of life. It can happen to anyone, and even if you are a traveler, seeker for something, this can be helpful somehow. Yeah, I know it maybe sounds not so positive, but it is. So yeah, 4 years of my life, 8 countries, changes within my relations with my husband, and how did our son has changed all this story.
It sounds like it'll be a really good read, though, especially for people who
Yeah.
have gone through loss, because you're right. It's just
Yes.
part of life. It's something we
Yes.
all have to deal with at some point, some kind of loss. So I
Yeah.
think
I
we can
wish I
all
would.
relate.
Yes, I wish I would read something like that when I was like 6 months ago, for example, because when you just hear to the other's story who made you remind about your story as well, it can be good, but not that much when you just read it like a book, like someone's story that can inspire you, in some way. So yeah, I'm gonna publish this book this summer. It's gonna be published on my native language first, but afterwards, I definitely want to translate it into English, because so that more readers around the world can read this story and know how the life can be different and interesting at the same time.
Well, yeah, definitely when it's in English, I'd love to read it.
Yeah,
I
thank
can't
you.
say I can't understand Russian, unfortunately, but
No worries.
so how many languages do you speak?
So I can say that English is my second language. I feel quite confident with that. As we're living in Brazil, we are still in the process of learning Portuguese. And I also used to learn Spanish a little bit, but so both these languages are just on the basic levels, but at least I can understand. I can order food and drinks and restaurants. That's really useful.
That's the important thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So is there anything else that you'd like to share or add?
I think I have said all the things that I got in my mind that I'm ready to talk about.
Well, thank you for coming on and for sharing your story. And I
Yeah,
really, appreciate, I know sometimes it's hard to speak your
yeah,
story, but I think it's
yeah,
important that we share our stories. So thank you so much for coming on.
yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Natalia, for sharing your story with us. I wanted to go back to the comment you made about asking yourself why this happened to you. I think this is something so many of us can relate to. We always question, why me? Why am I the one that had this experience? We blame ourselves. We feel like, oh, maybe we did something wrong. Maybe we did something to cause it. Maybe we're just a bad person who somehow deserved it. But this is a reminder. Your loss is not your fault. You're not a bad person. You didn't deserve it. You did nothing wrong. I think it's important to constantly remind ourselves of this. We didn't cause our loss. But yes, we are going to question it. We want to know why it happened. We want to know the reason, even if the reason won't bring our baby back. It's just in our nature to want to know the why behind it all. It's okay to question it. It's okay to think of those what ifs sometimes. But try not to let yourself spiral into a constant state of feeling like you did something wrong, or into always thinking about the what ifs. It's really hard, I know from experience. But by staying in this state, you won't be able to begin your healing. And healing doesn't mean that you've forgotten your baby. It doesn't mean you don't love your baby. Healing doesn't mean that you're happy every day and never sad. Healing simply means that you are learning to live your new normal with that grief, learning how to carry that grief with you. Remember, you deserve to have those happy moments too. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you enjoyed the show, I would really appreciate if you could leave a rating on Apple or Spotify. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, we are all in this together.